Convicted CEO Elizabeth Holmes is a flight risk, prosecutors say. Her teen stepdaughter asked her to take her to a doctor's appointment and keep it a secret, but now that her husband knows, he's furious with her for hiding all of this from him. Biden's tweet about his optimism for America prompts immediate backlash. Jesus, take the wheel. Florida police officer shot in face by burglary suspect. 5 officers returned fire, killing the suspect. Rhode Island dad accuses district of sick agenda to use and abuse children with pornography book.
This is breaking news.
I'm Erin Burnett in Washington.
Convicted CEO Elizabeth Holmes is a flight risk, prosecutors say. Elizabeth Holmes is a flight risk and shouldn't be allowed to stay out of prison while she appeals her 11-year prison sentence for defrauding investors, federal prosecutors said in court documents. Holmes had a one-way plane ticket to Mexico booked for January 26, 2022, 3 weeks after being convicted by a jury on 4 counts of fraud and conspiracy, federal prosecutors said in a motion filed Thursday in federal court in Northern California. Holmes, who was CEO of Theranos during the company's turbulent 15-year history, was convicted in a scheme that revolved around the company's claims to have developed a medical device that could detect a multitude of diseases and conditions from a few drops of blood. But the technology never worked, and the claims were false. Holmes booked the 2022 flight without a scheduled return trip and only canceled it after prosecutors contacted Holmes' attorneys about the unauthorized flight, prosecutors said. Holmes' attorneys did not immediately respond Friday to email and phone messages from the Associated Press. In a January 23, 2022, email responding to prosecutors' concerns about the planned trip, they said Holmes had booked it before the jury's verdict to attend a wedding in Mexico. Given the verdict, she does not plan to take the trip and therefore did not provide notice, seek permission, or request access to her passport, which the government has, for the trip, wrote Lance Wade, one of Holmes' attorneys. On November 17, U.S. District Judge Edward Davila sentenced Holmes to more than 11 years in prison. Davila ordered Holmes, who is pregnant, to report to prison on April 27, giving her enough time to give birth to her second child before she is incarcerated. She gave birth to a son shortly before her trial started last year. Prosecutors did not protest Davila's decision to give Holmes 5 months of freedom or bring up the fact that they considered her a flight risk. Holmes is scheduled to return to court on March 17 for a hearing on her request to stay out of prison while she appeals her conviction. Her teen stepdaughter asked her to take her to a doctor's appointment and keep it a secret, but now that her husband knows, he's furious with her for hiding all of this from him. This 44-year-old woman got married to her 47-year-old husband around 12 years ago. Her husband has a daughter from his first marriage, and her name is Mary. Mary was only 5 when she and her husband got married, and sadly, Mary's mom passed away before Mary even turned 1. Mary's mom had ovarian cancer, and she found out mid-pregnancy with Mary. Mary's mom was so scared to undergo chemo and risk losing Mary that she refused treatment until Mary was born. Sadly, after Mary's birth, there wasn't much the doctors could do for Mary's mom except try to buy her a little more time. Obviously, this was pretty traumatic for my husband, and Mary has been in therapy since before I knew her to help with that loss as well, she explained. Mary is now almost 17, and we're really close. I never officially adopted her, though I offered, but I never needed a piece of paper to tell me I loved her as if she did come from me. We see musicals, take art classes, go shopping/out for coffee/to get our nails done, go hiking, etc. together because we genuinely enjoy hanging out. She's the best and only kid I'll ever have. About 2 weeks ago, she took Mary to get her nails done, and while they were at the salon, Mary very anxiously asked if she could assist in her setting up a doctor's appointment. She wasn't sure why Mary was being so anxious about this, as she never acts that way, but she agreed instantly to do this for Mary. Mary went on to tell her that she had come across her mom's medical file, and she was terrified that she might end up having ovarian cancer like her mom. Mary wanted to go to the doctor to get screened as soon as she could. Mary then asked if she could please not tell her husband because she was concerned it would dredge up the past. Mary concluded their conversation by saying she would tell her dad what her test results were after she got them back. I took this as Mary wanting to be more independent and autonomous, so I acquiesced, made the appointment, and left it at that, she said. This past week was her appointment, and at her request, I accompanied her to the office, but waited in the car. Afterward, she had a business card for a genetic counselor that the doctor recommended and was talking about possibly wanting to get a genetic screening to find out her cancer risk. When we got home, she went to find my husband in his study, and they were in there for a while talking. When they came out, Mary gave him a big hug, and then my husband asked me if we could speak in private. Behind closed doors, her husband made it clear to her that he was furious. He was so upset that she hid the doctor's appointment from him. She attempted to tell him her side of the story, that she just wanted to let Mary be the one to tell him, but he wasn't listening. Her husband thinks that because Mary is a child, regardless of being basically 17, he needs to know about any of her doctor's appointments before they happen. I apologized, but he just said that now he doesn't know what other secrets you girls are hiding from him and has been sleeping on the couch in his office the past couple of nights, she continued. She's left wondering if it was wrong of her not to fill her husband in immediately. What do you think? Do you agree with her keeping the secret with Mary? Biden's tweet about his optimism for America prompts immediate backlash. Jesus, take the wheel. Despite the president's optimism, he remains widely unpopular in most opinion polls. Several people took to Twitter Friday evening to criticize President Biden after he tweeted that he had never been more optimistic about serving another 2 years in the White House. 2 years in, and I've never been more optimistic about America's future, Biden said on the 2-year anniversary of his inauguration, which was on January 20, 2021. But people who responded to the post did not share the president's enthusiasm. Well, that makes one of us, one user replied. Comedian Tim Young chided, gas is up 40 cents from last month and eggs are $9. You're not even awake. Put the phone down, in turn, another tweet said. Another user commented, 2 years in, I'd say the only direction you have to go at this point is up. Jesus, take the wheel, said another. Despite the president's optimism, he remains widely unpopular in most opinion polls. Biden's public approval rating remains near the lowest level of his presidency, with only 40% approved of his performance, according to a new Reuters Ipsos poll. The president fares somewhat better in other polls, though unable to get beyond the low 40s. 538's presidential approval tracker has the president receiving 43.4% of Americans' approval. The president's handling of the economy, continued spending in Ukraine, failure to secure the U.S.-Mexico border, continued assault on gun rights, and the discovery of classified documents at his Delaware home have all drawn ire from his critics in recent months. The president and the White House have said Biden will run for re-election in 2024, though he has not officially declared his candidacy for re-election. Such an announcement is expected and could come as early as next month. At 80, Biden is the oldest person in U.S. history to serve as president. According to Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina, he is not likely to face a primary opponent should he choose to run. I'm all in for President Biden, Clyburn told CBS' Robert Costa in an interview. I think he's demonstrated, in these 2 years, that he is deserving of re-election. And I do believe he will be re-elected irrespective of who the Republicans they put up. When asked if Biden will have an opponent in the primary, Clyburn said, I don't think he will, and I don't think he should. On the other side of the proverbial aisle, former President Donald Trump has officially announced he is seeking the Republican nomination in 2024. He is the only candidate currently in the running. Other potential candidates include former Vice President Mike Pence, Governor Ron DeSantis, Governor Nikki Haley, Governor Larry Hogan, Mike Pompeo, Senator Ted Cruz, and Governor Glenn Youngkin.